It is now 6:30. We'll call the meeting to order. As always, the first order is the agenda amendments. I'm informed we have none this evening. Moving on, the Selectboard Minutes of November 15th, 2021. I'll need a motion and a second to discuss and vote.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of 11/15/21.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, discussion on the minutes. Any corrections, anything needs to be noted, changed? Hearing none, I'll call a vote for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The minutes for November 17th, that was a field trip. There is a major, error in the minutes as they were written. I am going to table that until the next meeting. We can take it up at that time. Pay orders for December 7th. Currently it's showing at $44,049.71. We have no additions to that. Do I have a motion and a second to approve?
I make a motion to accept the pay orders in the amount of $44,049.71.
Second.
Do we have any corrections? Anything anybody sees here that looks incorrect or they have questions on?
Steve's Blue Cross is only $50 a month?
Hearing no other, I'll call the vote. All in favor of approval of 44,049.71?
Aye.
Aye. Road Commissioners report.
We're doing honorable mentions?
Pardon?
We're doing honorable mentions?
I'll let that slip my mind. Sandy's asked that we add something new to the agenda. I'm not sure whether we're going to do it all the time or not, but at the current time, she's asked to make some honorable mentions to a number of our citizens. First, she has Nika Heinz. She was named to the Southern Vermont League All-Star Team as a cross-country runner, and she's also been chosen as the Rutland Herald's Cross-Country Runner of the Year. Secondly, we note that John McClellan, Bruce DeShane, and Charlie Woods have adjusted the basketball hoops down at the recreation field. They had been about 4 inches less than what is the required height. They have taken and put them at the correct height. I would also note that Len and Mary Ann Cadwalder donated the trees that go to Dartmouth Hospital this year and also to the State House. If you're watching Channel 3 tonight, you would have noted on the news section, they actually had a photograph of it being installed at the State House. I haven't seen the one at Dartmouth on TV yet, but that could be coming.
Here you go. Thanks.
Road Commissioner's report. Steve. Bill.
Right in your shoes. Wow.
I was looking at him, so I said his name. Phil's
Right
actually.
in my lap. Damn. We've been, little maintenance on the equipment, chains and putting a wing on the grader, hauling in sand, replace what we've used up these last few storms. And basically winter road maintenance, I guess you'd want to call it. Take care of the snow and the ice.
Okay, just, you'd asked me a question earlier, and apparently it was already taken care of.
I heard that.
Yeah.
Today. Yeah.
Phil, we'll go with the Commissioner. What's your take on everything?
Well, everything looks good. What I've seen, I was out about 2-3 different times here, and I haven't had any issues. I've been down shop 2-3 times with them. We did put new tires on the old 14. I don't know if we did that 2 weeks ago, I think. And ordered the last set of chains for the grader that were needed, so we had them. And nothing. I don't think major going on at all down there, other than, like Steve says, winter maintenance. Did a little looking into the salt shed deal, we gotta work on that some more with Sandy and stuff, so,
I took some measurements on that today.
yeah. But other than that, I think we made it through the first storm all right, we didn't have too many issues, so. I don't have a whole lot to report.
Everything's going good.
I would just know real quick, I was down there one afternoon, I saw Casella's, or trucking, Carrera Trucking rather, delivering salt. Steve was putting it up that day, so I assume that they're gonna be delivering the salt this year. Cargill, I guess, doesn't haul their own stuff, or,
I would imagine it's whoever is available to deliver it
Yeah.
is how they're gonna work it. If Carrera is available, they will.
we've got I don't know how to approach this really. We've had a request for permit to do some logging over the Van Wyck Bridge. Sandy's had to look into a lot of this. I spent a lot of the last week looking into it. Apparently, the bridge that goes into that property is got a weight limit on it, 16,000. Apparently, it's a wood deck bridge, and by Vermont statute, they won't put a weight limit higher than 16,000 on those bridges, which probably complicates us to a bit of what we can actually put across that, considering a safety factor. It's been better than 50 years since I've dealt with a lot of this stuff. Back when I worked for the city of Rutland and I was in school, at that time a safety factor of about 2.5 was kind of the accepted margin. So at a 16,000 pound load limit, the design on it would have called for probably a maximum of 40,000 pounds across that bridge. Apparently the state doesn't take into consideration how much of the load is on the bridge at any one time, where it's located. From what I've learned over the years, the midpoint is as you can imagine, the midpoint is the point where the greatest amount of stress would be on the bridge. I think that we need to have somebody that's got a little more expertise in what the momentum arms that are created by a bridge going over a span would have for a maximum weight on that type of a bridge. I know when you did the construction on it, you've got a better set of beams beneath it than what would normally be called for. However, when we're looking at insurance and liability, the state statutes indicate, and the permit indicates, that the liability falls upon the trucker, the driver. I can tell you from the experience I've had in writing some of those tickets that we do on occasion if a driver is directed on a specific course to arrive at his destination by electronic means such as an electronic dispatcher, that we can write the ticket for the corporation or the company that owns the vehicle. Now, I'm not sure how that will come into play with the people who do the logging or the people that are looking at having the logging done. The biggest problem is I don't see any way that we can consider a weight limit on there of more than probably 2.5 times the accepted posted limit. As you mentioned to me and to Sandy both, we've got some recommendations, of companies that can do the survey work on a bridge and give us a little insight if we can go higher than that. But I know myself, and I think I speak for the board, I would be very hesitant to issue a weight permit much higher than, say, 36,000 pounds without some expertise from an actual survey company. I'm not sure, I know the question was brought up, okay, who would pay for the survey? I honestly don't know if there's a legal answer to that. My thought on it would be that whoever is trucking across it and wish to have that limit raised, or the people that are providing the logging job, would probably be the ones that do it. We are not required by state statutes to provide services beyond the normal required, which would be fire, emergency, obviously highway, the basic services that you'd need to get in there, a fuel truck, propane, your normal services like that. State law does require even propane trucks, gas trucks, fuel trucks. If it's not raw forestry or raw milk product, they're required to have overweight permits for any town where they're going to be traveling on roads that are posted and they exceed the weight limits. Unfortunately, Wallingford in the past has not been real good on keeping up with obtaining the permits. We do have a list here of the approximately 20 or 25, including some of those delivery companies that are complying with that. There are also a few that are obviously not on there. I am probably going to be suggesting that we find out which ones are using the roads and not obtaining permits. So that's probably something we're going to have coming down the road here. The sheriff is here tonight. I'm not sure how many of his deputies know how to write overweight permits or any of that. It's nothing we've asked for in the past. But it's one of those problems that we're going to be looking at. As for a set answer on the weight limit on that bridge, I don't think we're in a position to actually come to a conclusion on that tonight. I know there are a couple of you who come here about the weights. Is there commentary that you'd like to express?
Yes. Is it okay to keep the mask on or prefer?
I can't hear you with the mask.
Well, thank you for allowing us to come in tonight. We did come in for some clarification on the bridge issue, and well, we certainly got some that we didn't expect to hear. So I guess my first question is, it sounds to me it's pretty obvious that we aren't going to be hauling any logs over or firewood anytime soon over that bridge. Is that correct?
I would say so, yeah.
What do you believe would be the time frame before we could even consider doing that, or is that something that's up in the air?
I asked Sandy tonight to first of all find out roughly what a survey would cost us, or would cost whoever had to make the payment. We've not had a chance to check with a town attorney on it. Some of these questions have really popped up in the last 2 days. We didn't really expect that what we had originally said back at the beginning of the year, that we could probably allow half loads to go across it. Our own calculations, our own thoughts at the time, weren't taking into consideration that a half load plus a truck would be pushing a lot of the weight quite a bit higher. I think she has 3 names that we were referred to try and find out what the cost of that survey would be. She could probably tell you what they were. I don't think that saying the names over the TV is going to, you know, it's probably, I don't even know if I can mention their names, but they are engineering firms that do that kind of work. But I think that would be the first step. You know it's gonna be 2 weeks before it's gonna be another meeting before we can sit down with whatever information we get.
Okay. Well, that puts Amy and I in a rather difficult position considering, you know, we based our information on moving forward with the job with at least what we discussed, you know, back in January, and we've started the job now, and we spent a lot of time and money and energy and put into this, and to suddenly hear this tonight is a little unsettling. It really is for us.
I would be the last one in the world to tell you to break a law or something, but I don't know what to tell you. If we're gonna stay legal, we almost have to do this. And quite honestly, I don't know how much that you can actually put across that bridge. I don't, you know, we just spent, I think we did something like $19,000 on the bridge that's in there to provide access to that area.
Well, that may be the case, but that certainly didn't, you know, help our position moving forward here, and, yeah, well, I appreciate your input.
I mean, we're sitting here, I mean, there's a obvious thing that Phil has to recuse himself from the discussion pretty much. Until we get a better idea of what that bridge will actually take. We know what we thought it would take back when we did this.
I understand that, but still puts both of us, particularly Amy, who has a right to have her property logged, and thought, you know, this is gonna work out right up until about 20 minutes ago. Just a little unfair, in all reality, don't you think that's true?
Well, honestly, I thought back then we were okay with what we had, but the state will not raise it to a 24,000-pound limit. I mean, if you read your state statutes, it's right in state law. A wooden bridge, a wooden deck bridge is 16,000. It's not considered more than that because you have good underpinning. They don't change it because you have good embankments. That's the one weight that they put them at.
I have something to say if I could. If you're required to provide vehicles that can access that bridge, you mentioned a fire truck, a fuel truck. Both of those are clearly over 16,000 pounds. I have oil trucks that come over to deliver. I mean, if you're now saying that I'm going to need to ask them for a permit, if they decline to deliver my fuel, you're putting me in a really difficult situation, and this is not about logging. If the bridge was rebuilt 2 years ago, why wasn't some thought put into increasing this so that I could just at least run my home? It's putting me in a really, beyond this logging, this is very frustrating.
Well, I think to begin with, the fuel trucks will be able to cross it. If they're now running across there with a full fuel truck, they're probably going to be under 36,000.
I can't dictate to the fuel company and ask them to come with less of a load. I mean, that's,
you can't, I'm trying to get across to you, these laws, okay, some of the things I'm talking about, I went through the commercial vehicle course at the police academy. So basically, this was part of my job when I was a police officer. I don't know what's changed in the 8 years now that I've been retired. So some of what I'm saying is from experience dealing with truck weights. We need to get some kind of legal advice that's up to date. But right now, from my experience, what I've gained myself from having done this in practice 8 years ago, one of the things was every one of these companies that's running like your fuel truck across your bridge and everything is supposed to have come to the town and obtained a weight limit or a permit to travel on those highways. As I said, these are the only ones that have complied with that state law. So right off the bat, they are in violation if they don't have a permit. The fire trucks and stuff are exempt, but there again, they're probably well within the safety factor of what's required to get across. Ambulances obviously are able to get in there. I don't believe Central Vermont has any line trucks, Green Mountain Power, excuse me, any line trucks that would be above those limits. But there again, none of those have come to us with their actual registered weights or let us in what they have. Right now, Sandy's going through this. It's a big question, what is legal? But from my own observation, dealing with trucks and stuff over the years, log trucks are a different character. You're not dealing with a fuel truck that can probably come across there with 1,000 pounds or 1,000 gallons in there and still service you. I really don't have a good answer for you tonight.
We were, and Stephen might elaborate on this, but we were under the impression that there was some misunderstanding between the weight versus the volume, half load versus the amount of weight. So we were sort of hoping to have come tonight and easily resolved this with getting your blessing on the 50,000 pound, which, you know.
I'm sure you were. Phil can probably correct me if I'm wrong. I believe currently a triaxle can be registered for 80,000 pounds.
70.
I'm not sure what, with a tag along, what they're registered for.
The triaxle is 70,000, whether it's a dump truck or a black truck. And truck and trailer is 99.
Yeah, and probably 20% to 30% of that is a unit, the truck or the unit that's taking it across.
Yeah.
Which means if you add that and then half of a load of logs on, you're probably going to be up around 60,000 or better. So you see, that's where our concern is. You're not going to get a single axle fuel truck going in there at 60,000 pounds. It just isn't going to go that high. Nor is a fire truck or those general trucks.
I hope you can understand our position. We put a lot of time and money into this with the understanding that we were on the same page in terms of the weight, and so it's putting Stephen's business in a difficult position and me as the property owner in a difficult position. So we understand that we can't get an answer tonight, but we'd like to proceed with getting this resolved as, working together, whether it's me and Sandy. I'm not sure how we'll do that, but.
Well, what my view is, I think most of the people on the board go along. I'm not sure that we actually had the same 5 members on the board when we did that either. At that time, I thought that going to half a load in with a unit, it would be safe. I'm not sure that it couldn't still go across it. But before I said yes to letting that amount go across it, I would want some kind of documentation that yes, that you're not gonna have a truck up there with part of the axle stuck through the bed or worse. And then we have to do the same thing we did last, what was it, about a year ago now, to upgrade that bridge.
I don't know why the bridge was upgraded. I don't think it was because there was any damage.
I think we actually had something from the state that we went on.
It was rotten, okay.
It was rotten.
But it was an age thing,
This-
not a,
Yes, because it was redone in Irene, I think just before, just after Irene, it had railroad wires under it originally. And then Belden, I think, came in and did some work on it, and then we did some more work on it this past time. We replaced the rotted beams and a new bridge deck. So,
I want to mention that this logging project is to maintain compliance with Vermont's current use program. That's why we're doing this. We have a certain time frame in which this needs to get done. So that's the purpose of this project. I'm looking to the state to get a little help with my taxes up there on that property, and that's what this enrollment is supposed to do. So if I can't do that, I'm not sure what position that puts me in, because we don't have any way to get that wood off my property.
I can see you've got a problem, but I don't think the select board can just sit here and issue a permit to go across it without some kind of a basis
I understand,
or a decision.
but I would hope with, in terms of this, whatever surveying needs to be done, that, you know, I'm already into this a lot
That's gonna be Missy. Missy.
Hello?
Hi, it's Missy Whitmore.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we're not there yet,
Where-
Missy.
Did you hear her?
You're not there yet.
No.
Yeah, you can just hold.
Do you want me to hang on or
Yes.
I'll come back in a few minutes?
No, just hang on.
Okay.
It's taking a little longer than we expected. All I can say is we can try to get it through as fast as we can, but without some kind of support or, you know, knowledge of what we can and can't okay, I think we're gonna have to table it.
Well, I think I appreciate you wanting to move forward. One thing that concerned me that you said was that, you know, you felt that town might not be responsible for the inspection fees, engineering work and stuff, whatever it would end up being, and that myself or Amy or possibly even Phil was doing the trucking might be responsible for that. I think we need to clear that part up really, really soon before we go. I mean, obviously we want to move forward to get this done, but, you know, if we're going to be somehow, at least in some percentage, responsible for that fee, that's probably something we should discuss like
As far as
soon.
liability goes, I think probably state statute puts us as the responsibility of the driver of the truck.
oh no, I think he's talking about the fee for doing the weight.
The fees, my guess is that probably they would fall back on either Steve or Amy. I don't believe the town is gonna pay for a survey to see what a commercial enterprise can do on a public highway.
I mean, she has a bridge that we can't even know how partial rolls out now, and now, to make matters worse, we're gonna be responsible for not let alone the work that can be put into it, but just the study to get whatever the engineering is that needs to be done to see if anything can be fixed. I mean, that just doesn't sound fair that our responsibility should be on her or I.
I agree, and
I have to disagree with you, Steve, on that. I mean, it's money we wouldn't spend unless you were wanting to run logs across that bridge. It's not an expense that we would normally undertake. We would leave the bridge rating at 16,000 pounds.
I understand, but how many other places in town are restricted? I mean, most everybody, I mean, maybe not everybody, but everybody I can think of that wants to have a property log in Wallingford doesn't have to worry about having to pay for a study on a bridge to see if they can haul their logs over the bridge. I mean, I don't know anywhere else this situation would exist in town, so that alone certainly would seem a little bit unfair on her part. Would that not be accurate?
The only one that's profiting here from this is you or Amy. There's no profit in this for the town. So why should the town taxpayers pay for this survey?
I understand that. That's not my point. My point is, if you can, anybody on board can tell me where the situation would be, I'd love to know if there is another situation, if anywhere in town that has a bridge restriction like this, that would halt somebody, a property owner, from cutting their property, and then being in this position to have to pay for possible remedy to get the bridge up to date, let alone the work for it. Is there anywhere else in town that this would be the case? Can anybody answer that? Can you answer that, Steve? Well,
I don't know. It's the only one that's got, other than Dugway, it's the only one that's got a restricted weight limit.
how many bridges in town have 16,000 pound
Two.
weight bridge besides Amy's?
Three? Who's the third one?
Kent.
Oh, Kent Farm, yeah. That little short road.
Kent Farm Road and what was the other one?
Dugway.
Tugway?
Yeah, they both have alternate ways out.
My thought is if this bridge was replaced 2 years ago, or mainly replaced, why couldn't we have addressed the decking at that point? If the decking is the limiting factor, I don't know what the price difference was, putting wood and putting whatever the alternative is that would have brought us up, but if the decking had been put on differently, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
There are probably a lot of things that if it's not brought to the town's attention, there would be a conversation over. But it has come to our attention and, you know,
Well, that's why I'm saying, can we talk about the study, even if it's a 50-50 thing, so that, you know, I'm not burdened with the entire cost.
Wasn't there an alternate route in through East Street?
I was just going to mention that. It seems in here in the notes that, Liz asked if there was another access.
The short answer is yes, there is an alternate route. However, after looking into it, it doesn't appear to be feasible. It's going to require a large amount of, again, assuming the landowner agrees to do this, it's going to require a large amount of gravel and excavation work in order to get a road up through there to where we could get the log truck to access the log header, and it would be financially just not feasible to do, assuming that we could get the landowners to agree to do that with us. So it's not really and it wasn't before when we came in January really a viable option, and I think we spoke about that a little bit then too. So it's just not something that would work. Unfortunately, we wish it would. It's a good question.
aside from what I've told you, I don't see where else we can go.
Okay.
Would you agree to conversation about splitting the cost once we find out even what that cost is, since none of us know yet even what kind of number we're looking at?
I believe Sandy's already got at least one email into one of the companies to see what a cost would be. I have no idea. It's been so long since I've dealt with anything like that that I wouldn't even take a wild guess.
So
So would it be safe to assume, assuming we work on an agreement, and whoever pays for the study, we get that taken care of? If there's any work to be done, I mean, it sounds to me like we're gonna be responsible for that as well, if we're the only ones that worry about getting it up to where it belongs and wait for what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
I would say probably it'd be case by case. I just can't give you an answer on that.
Can you give me an answer about how we would handle the payment if you would consider?
I'm sorry.
Can you give me an answer tonight about how you would handle the payment for the study, if you'd be agreeable to splitting that cost with me?
I don't think we can answer that tonight. I mean,
I don't think we could.
we really need to know the cost.
So how do we proceed then from tonight?
Well, I should ask everybody, does anybody have a different view than what I've expressed? I think we've reached about as far as we can with what information we have. I don't want to be sitting here and make some kind of a commitment or a statement.
I'm just wondering what happens now. Do I just wait to hear from Sandy, or do I make
Well,
phone calls on my own?
I would say that we'll probably make a quick call to an attorney. But my guess is that probably if there's to be a survey done, it's not to the town's advantage, nor is it something we would normally do. It would be strictly, your responsibility for a survey or whatever needs to be improved. You're really doing nothing other than creating, as Phil mentioned before, a loggerhead to get your logging project out. And towns just don't take that as their responsibility to provide you with access to your property for commercial enterprise. If the road is already there, 140 passes right through your property, then it's a public way that's open to the use of anybody. But there is a 16,000 pound limit on that road. So we're not deliberately throwing a weight limit at you just to keep you from logging.
I understand. I still stand by my position that 2 years ago, you had the opportunity to improve that bridge, and that wasn't taken. So in my mind, if you're making improvements to your infrastructure, you want to maybe eliminate these bridges that are 16,000 instead of continuing to put the restriction on. So I hope you understand my frustration as a property owner.
Trust me, I do. And I'm totally sympathetic. I spent 20 years in the trucking industry. I went to college studying highway engineering. It doesn't always work for everybody's benefit. But all I can say is we'll try to find out as much as we can, as quick as we can. And I'm certain once we have any good idea, we will get back to you. Hopefully before the next meeting. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks, everyone.
Phil, do you have anything else under road commission?
Yeah, I do, one more little thing.
Okay.
We talked the last meeting or 2 meetings ago about making a quick coupler for the front end of the loader, and talked about bringing it over to gentleman on 103, does some iron work, welding and cutting. Brought the bucket over to him, had him look at it. He did a few phone calls, and you can actually get one from Caterpillar cheaper than he can make it. It's around $1,100 from Caterpillar. So my question to the board is, do they want to spend $1,100 on a quick coupler that goes on the front end loader? So Steve is going to make up another plate with it. So we have access to the V-plow, one of the 14-foot plows, or the all-angle plow, the street broom and forks. Because he'll make an adapter that'll hook to all of them. We just need the mounting bracket that goes onto the loader itself.
And the cost on that's gonna be about $1,100?
I think he said it was $1,030, so I presume there's tax or freight or something on it. I've got the numbers, I think Steve's got them in his garage. It's right directly from Caterpillar. It goes right directly to that machine. And then he'll make a plate that hooks to it to adapt to what we have in the yard. Because we kept the forks off the old loader. And we have an extra plow. It's one that was in the accident 2 years ago. And we have that big V plow out front. And we have chains for the loader now. So for a little Steve's time and $1,000, $1,100, we could make that up to utilize what we have in the yard. You know, I just want to pronounce that to the board.
Sound reasonable?
You can save money with them.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
You got it.
That's why we kept the forks originally.
Yep.
So we could adapt to it, and then, of course, Caterpillar was a completely different hookup from Kawasaki's.
Sounds good?
Okay, then we'll order one. Thank you.
Nobody else have any other questions? Okay. The revenue. Missy, I believe you're here for that?
That's correct. I'm here just to answer any questions y'all might have, but, yeah, I think the language of the trust is pretty clear that if the town gets to decide what they want to do with it and put it on the ballot for this coming town meeting.
Okay, have you seen the email that was sent by Joyce and Mike Barbieri?
Everybody has a copy.
Is it there?
No,
I'm not sure the email you're referring to.
Okay. Joyce had made a recommendation. She was looking at the Fernfield Farms and to put 2/3 of the principal into a fund to rebuild the salt shed and keep the remainder of the fund. The Stafford, I don't believe, is going to come into any of the play on this.
No.
It's just the Fernfield Farms. Dave, are you here? Yeah. Dave is also here from your committee. I don't know if he has anything else or not.
My recommendation is to keep the fund the way it is and utilize the interest income the way we have in the past. Because the minute you spend that money, it's gone forever. It was donated to us to offset the loss of taxes when the land was sold to the federal government. And your trustees have invested it for all these years and made money and continue to generate income for the town to use to offset the loss of taxes. If you go out and spend it on something like the salt shed or something like that, it's gone forever.
Missy, were you able to hear that?
Yeah, to some extent. And I think it's great that the trustees weigh in on this, but we have no authority to weigh in any more heavily than any other citizen of the town. So that would just be our very personal opinion. Trustees are in charge of managing the funds, and those have been managed pretty prudently over the last probably years that stuff has been going on. So hard to believe that the date of December 7th, 2023 is looming in our future, but there we have it. And I mean, if I had a recommendation, it would be that there be a committee that provides a recommendation to the town about what to do with the funds. But with that kind of time running short, I think maintaining the the fund as it is with a resolution to revisit it each year until a decision is made. But, you know, Dave's position that, you know, it's been doing a good job as is good. So, if you hold on, I'm going to pause on this call because I've got another call coming in. Okay.
All righty. Just for everybody on the board here, Sandy sent me a note today that in the past 22 years, there's been $131,708 brought from that fund into the town. That comes out to about $6,000 a year, and that has generally been used to lower property taxes during that course of time. Did you get that?
Well, that was the general purpose. I was around when that happened, and that was the whole idea when Fernfield Farms sold that. That was basically payments in lieu of taxes, just like the anything that the last time what happened last year when they sold some more to the federal government. So I see the two sides. One thing is that if we do anything with it, we should do something that's countable, you know, not just dribble it away. We should do something that's big and noticeable and what we're trying to save up money for, like the bridge or something. At the same time, the idea that we have been lowering taxes all along, even if it's by $6,000 or $7,000 a year, and that's just been taken, you know, it's still been growing. The principal has been growing, so we've just been taking the actual dividends, not even the capital gains. So, I mean, I'm of two minds, but what's going to benefit the town the most?
Is everybody thinking along those lines that perhaps to leave it to as it is and let it continue using the...
I don't agree with that at all.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
I don't, first of all, I don't think we're allowed to, but secondly, if we gotta turn around and spend $500,000 toward a bridge, the taxes are gonna go incredibly higher. And same way, we need a salt shed. So we're gonna have to turn around and bump the taxes up to pay for that. So if we've got that money now, I really think we should use some of it to deal with problems we got at hand current.
So I'm hearing some agreement with what Joyce proposed, the 2/3 of principal towards something like a salt shed or something, and then keep the remainder for its original purpose. I would also be of that mind as well.
You would also what, Kathy?
I'd also be of that mind as well.
Well, with what Joyce recommended?
Yeah.
I think first of all, it would help. I mentioned to Steve, I think yesterday, we're really at a point where we need to have an idea what the salt shed is going to run us for money, whether it can be done this year, whether with the salt shed being budgeted or whether we use funds that are in the farm's principal. The other thing that enters into it is that we're right now in this year, we're hit with 2, maybe 3 projects that are probably, as Bruce says, going to cause an increase in the tax rate. We're also looking at a 21-year-old grader that's going to run us $200,000. Again, I'd like to know what the salt shed is going to run us.
Just push the white button or she's disconnected. Okay, maybe she'll come back.
I mean, just between those two, we don't know whether we're looking at 250,000 or whether we're looking at 400,000. I tend to agree with both Kathy and Bruce if we had to go, again, it helped to have an idea of how much more life we've got in that grader. I think that 21 years, it's not got a 5-year margin left in it. We're probably dealing with this year and next year that it really needs to be changed out. We've got a 14 plow truck that right now is 7 years old. If we go 2 more years with that, that's going to put us into the potential of the 2 years down the road where we might be looking at a grader. The revenue from the Fernfield Farms has always been nice because it gives a little bit of a punch here in town with the interest on it. But there again, with the state of inflation that we're in, and we don't really know how much inflation we're getting. Social Security is looking at going up 6%. If you've watched your news on TV, you've seen the price of chicken has risen 9% in the last month. Is that $200,000 in Fernfield going to buy us $200,000 worth of dollar value in 5 years? I don't know. I almost think that at this period of time, we should seriously look at taking that money and using it while $2 is still worth $2, or a $10 bill is still worth $10. I don't think the interest is going to increase as much as the inflation is in the foreseeable future. I'm no seer and I can't guess what's going to happen 10 years down the road. I will say I have been amazed over the years that it's been administered by our people here in town. Dave, I think, has been on it for many years. Joyce has been on it missing. If you look at the actual increase of that from the original, and also the Stafford Fund started out at, I believe it was 50,000, and that one also has gone up considerably, like 150%.
Yeah, Dave Ballots deserves the credit for doing the research and making the decision on that investment option, and it stood us in good stead through thick and thin. So
I have to agree on that. I've been amazed at what the investment's paid. Did you catch the part where I was talking about potential inflation?
Yes. And so from my perspective, I think those kinds of intangibles we shouldn't be worrying about. We should really figure out what's good for the town. And the town is in a unique position this year, as I understand it, with the various relief monies that are available as well. And so, a concerted review of what's gonna work for the long haul. What's the impact on the tax rate, or maybe taking that chunk of money and doing something with it, or continuing along as we have, and instead redirecting the income from these funds to special purpose things from year to year. And that's not the trustees' decision to make. That is the voters' decision.
I'm probably in a unique situation here in that I think I'm throwing some of my views in. I'm sure there are others on the board that have got ideas here too. I still can't get away from the concern that I think a lot of people have looked at these ARPA funds as being a boon to the town, $550,000. And the Rutland Herald printing that the mayor is looking at possibly using part of those funds to do the gazebo. And Mr. Wright, the head of the board, a suggestion where they can put maybe money into a reserve fund. The unfortunate thing is when you start reading into the paperwork on these, the uses of that ARPA funds, none of that is projected as being possibilities. We're not even really sure how much money we can put into water and sewer. And we've already been refused that we can't do sidewalks and highway work. If it's not really COVID related, we can't do that either. In fact, tonight, one of our articles here is going to be bringing up ARPA funds, and where I know I'm going to suggest that we form a committee of volunteers to get into this ARPA more than we can, to find out what possible uses we do have. It's been a nightmare between Sandy and I trying to just eliminate what we can't use funds on. And with that inside knowledge, I guess you'd call it, on some of the ARPA ruling, I'm leaning very much to if we've got money in one of the two accounts where we can actually perhaps put part of it towards a grader and part of it towards the salt shed improvement that needs to be done. I'm all in favor of probably doing that now while there is money there. Otherwise, that work has to be done, and we know it's going to increase the taxes, and we are pretty darn sure we cannot tap into the ARPA funds to do any of it. Does anybody have any views?
No, I think we just need to come up with a ballot item for the town to vote on. But I do think we should look at putting it toward a grader or the Creek Road Bridge or the salt shed.
Won't sound sexy, but it'll be needed.
It's one of these big ticket items that's gonna, all three of them need to be done, and you're gonna raise taxes. We can head some of that off.
What about a suggestion if we can get an estimate on what we want to do with the salt shed, a workable diagram, and come up with a material cost. And if we can cover that out of the fund, and potentially maybe take a small portion for a grader, when we get into the equipment, we're probably going to be looking at a major piece of equipment, either the grader or some other equipment down there. Rely on an amount out of that Fernfield account. We're still, I would assume that we can't touch the other account, the Stafford.
No.
So that will remain in.
Right.
That still draws some income. I believe that goes to Mill Rivers.
That's a scholarships only.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember, I went to court with all of these things when they were originally awarded to us. And so I know what could be used and couldn't be used. The Stafford is perpetual into scholarships. And you have a scholarship committee who choose the people who receive the money on an annual basis.
Right.
Now, as far-
You know what that's at, that.
was it Stafford?
Yeah,
Without looking, it was around 150,000, I'm not sure.
150, I was about right on 150%.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up,
I
based on the last statement they mailed. Sandy should have a copy of it.
I think
I know I got my house.
150.
Now, is it strictly the interest on that that's awarded every year? Because it's not a lot of money. to
Yeah,
give away.
interest only.
Well, but when you're investing it into mutual funds, And you're saying only the interest and the capital gain keeps growing. I mean, there's no idea of 5% of the balance or something like that, like a normal annuity?
That's not the way that the account was set up. The lawyers went over with a fine tooth comb. And it was set up that you could only use the interest income for scholarships on an annual basis. And the reason for that was they were trying to make sure that your capital gains and stuff would offset the inflation, the cost of everything over time. So $50,000 would be.
Reinvested. I've got the statement in front of me for September 30, and the Stafford Fund was $164,600.
So when you say interest, you mean interest and dividends, correct?
Right.
Well, you get dividends only, you don't get interest.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You said interest, but you mean dividends too, okay.
We're getting off the subject here, so.
So I hear what Dave's saying about, having a fund that if you spend it all, then it's all gone. And I think that's why I kind of lean towards Joyce's recommendation of taking 2/3 of it to use towards a big purchase or several big purchases, but keeping 1/3 of it. Because if we spend it all, then we don't have any more at all. If we even have a third chunk of it, at least we still have some that can continue to grow.
Missy, you've got there in front of you. What is the actual balance of the Fernfield right now?
That was, I just closed it out, but it was about $264,000 as of September 30th.
Okay,
So it's slightly larger than that now.
yeah. Boy, I wish we didn't have so many things coming up.
240,166 as of September 30th. It's in your memo.
You know, I feel like the thing that you need to come up with is a ballot item that perhaps gives you the flexibility to monitor things as it evolves, because we've got a very fluid situation going on right now, and so somehow coming up with a ballot item that allows perhaps the fund to continue with I don't know what the correct terms are, but it's sort of a recurring resolution about what we'll look at it each year, until some committee, and maybe your committee that you're going to have for the ARPA Funds can incorporate the price of this 200. It's actually 240,000. Sorry, didn't have my glasses on. But it was 240,000 at September 30. Those are my thoughts. Give yourself some leeway to not have a hard and fast decision.
Maybe a couple of us could get together with Sandy and we can word a ballot
That around some numbers.
and bring it back to the board at the next meeting or whatever.
You got the grader to get some numbers together.
We can't hear you down at this end of the room.
What I said was maybe a couple of the board members could get together with Sandy and draft a ballot item and bring it back to the full board at the next meeting.
I think we still need to give Sandy some kind of a ballpark guidance, and even the two that are, even two members that were conferring with her. I, in a way, am somewhat in agreement with Joyce's thought, that spending maybe 2/3 of the balance and trying to keep a minimal amount. I think that originally was somewhere around, the initial was somewhere around 50 or 60,000.
I think it was like 70-ish.
70.
That rings a bell.
If you've got 241 and right now, and you take 2/3, you're gonna leave $80,000 in the fund.
71.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is
He
that
said
true?
71,000 when it started. That was 25 years ago, right? Well, just
The minutes from 83.
83? Holy crap. Well, so we're getting a thing on the salt shed, is that correct, an idea, right?
Well, a lot of what we come up with is gonna depend on what they need for the salt shed.
Right, so we're getting, so somebody's over there, is that what's happening, salt shed? Okay, and so then what Bruce said makes sense. We'll just get together and come up with some idea and figures about what we've been talking about tonight for the next meeting.
So what do you think of whatever they come up with a ballot item, maybe about 2/3 of it for the proposal spend and reserve, either state the 70 or 1/3, or
Yeah.
probably for the ballot, just 2/3 and 1/3 would be easier than trying to put in numeric to it. Who do we want to talk with, Sandy, about it?
Well, that's why I said something that we can.
Bruce and Kathy?
Yeah, I'll work with you.
Is that okay, you and Bruce?
Yep.
And they'll come up with something for us to,
Okay, so not me, okay.
Do you want to do it?
I'd like to think of it. But
I think we're okay, Missy.
How about,
Dave, did you catch what we kind of decided to suggest? Missy,
I'm fine with whatever.
Yeah,
I think we're all set then. Thank you very much for your input, it helped a lot.
well, you're quite welcome, and fingers crossed, good luck, you guys.
Okay, thank you.
I'll
Good
be back
night.
in town this time next week, take care.
Okay, good night.
Could you avoid a snowstorm or an ice storm, maybe over Saturday, Sunday? Next week? We really appreciate it.
Okay.
Push that
Thank
white
you.
button.
Bye-bye.
You push, yeah, the white button.
Public comments.
You're gonna be,
want to hang up the phone down for a minute?
that white button.
Yeah.
hang up the phone, white button.
There you go.
I will never have one of them in my house. Public safety,
Yes.
the budget. Going by the line items, first thing we got is the first constable. We allotted him $250 last year. Is everybody good with $250 for the sheriff again? Or for the, excuse me, the constable? Special officers. That would be the sheriff's department we refer to as special officers. Dave, you're here. We asked for a price for, I believe it was 20 hours a week.
$45,947.
You have a copy of the?
Yep.
What I'm showing here, over the course of the year, that would be $45,947. That would be
Yes.
I don't remember what that was per hour. That must be somewhere around, what, 40?
4418.
Anything you need to share on it, or?
Nope, just, I didn't know if you had questions, or Sandy asked me to show up if you had, I guess if somebody had questions on any part of it.
The 20 hours is 45,947, are we good with that? For the budget?
Round it out to 46.
46?
Dog warden. We put in 1,200 last year, it's about 100 a week. Okay?
So we have 46 on the sheriff?
Yes.
Yeah, 46, 45, yeah. We have 1250 on the dog warden.
Sure.
All right with everyone?
Well, 1,250 expense.
And
I think it's,
we did put $50 expense in there. Obviously, if he has to run up to the dog pound or up to the animal shelter in Pittsburgh.
he had to buy a catch pole. That's what that was for.
We're good, Dave. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I have a problem with trucks and vehicles parking in front of Cumberland Farms in between those two signs. Is there any way the sheriff's department could start kind of patrolling a little bit? It's very hard coming off of Maple Street.
So they're parking on the,
They're really parking
East
on
side?
both sides, but it's mainly, coming.
or the west side?
Yeah, where the Cumberland Farms is.
The what?
Right in front of.
Yeah.
right in front of
Now that, I don't think they have that marked there, do they? Right in front of the
It's
store?
marked, there's signs there.
Both sides.
Okay, I know the other side was marked, I didn't know that the west side of the
They're
road.
back at it again.
We haven't put hash marks on it, but there are two signs, one right in the middle of the island.
They
I
probably ran
mean,
that
I
over by
literally
now.
see trucks parked with a cab beside the sign where they could read it from the windshield.
Yeah,
Well, one truck driver told me that, where else am I gonna park? You know, if if the delivery company knows that you have limited parking, I don't feel they should send these great big tractor trailers. Send a truck that can get into it. But I've had a lot of problems coming off of Maple Street.
Yeah,
Making
I
a
can
left hand
understand
turn because
that.
I can't see.
is it vehicles actually delivering to the store, or just people stopping to get coffee, or both?
It's both.
Yeah.
It's,
Okay,
If I remember right, we actually put them in the ordinance, so it falls under village ordinance, which as you know is a big one.
yeah.
It's 220 and 2 points. I think if one or two get handed out like that, word will get around real quick.
Yeah, we can, I'll definitely get that ordinance looked at and get a copy out to the guys. See if we can,
I don't
when we
want
come
to
through, if we
complain,
can find somebody there.
but I've had too many incidents where
Yeah,
truck there and I can't see.
for sure.
Back in here, park, come on the farms, and you can just walk over here.
Yeah, it's,
I just kind of, my opinion,
I know, yeah.
but I think if you could.
sure.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you
capital.
very much.
Have a good night.
You
Thank
too.
you, Dave.
Okay.
5710 on Route 140 bridge. This should be the last payment, and it's already been filled in. It's the 10/8/35. We're all good with that, I'm sure. Bridge reserve fund.
Yeah, we did this last year.
We've put 30,000 in that for I don't know how many years now. I assume everybody's okay with that.
Nelson, we did capital last month. Numbers are all in already.
Yeah, we're down to recreation.
We did capital last meeting. The numbers are already in there.
We're on rec.
They're all filled in, but I don't believe we okayed them, did we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We did
At the
them?
first meeting, we just need to do rec now.
Oh, okay. Elfin Lake salaries. We've got 82 penciled in.
I mean, well, we don't have anything, we don't have anything in, yeah. This is what you have your 82 was estimated for year end for this year, not for next year.
Right.
You have your worksheet from the rec committee. It looks like this.
Like this, no, you want this. It's
That was
there.
from last week.
I don't have anything on that.
No, it was in
that's
this
from
week.
this week.
Oh, 95.
This time. You should have that.
I don't.
This one.
One with it. Here you go. Here you go.
Yeah, there you go. Look, you have, this is start, Elfin Lake salary should be top, on the top. There you go, that right there.
Okay.
This is their, the Rex recommendations.
Okay, you got 9,500 for the seller?
We were estimated to spend 82.
Is that what, we're good with 95 then?
No,
No,
not if we only spent 82 this year. What are we gonna do, give people a $1,000 raise next summer?
Now, the salaries include who?
Concessions and lifeguards.
Lifeguards?
Yeah.
What about the summer program?
That's the
That
second
doesn't-
line, that's the next line. Summer rec salaries is the next line.
did we
Oh.
not have a full complement of lifeguards this year?
We have one.
We only had one.
We staffed it Monday through Friday, no lifeguards on the weekends, we just work Monday through Friday.
And we still ran 8,200?
Well, with the concessions too.
Oh, okay, the lifeguard and the concessions are both part of it.
so it seems like the 95 would go for a second lifeguard. Because they didn't spend for a second lifeguard this year. They only spent for one lifeguard. So that's why it's up to 9,000.
I think we could leave it flat at 9,000 myself.
It would eliminate, we'd either have to get rid of someone in concession or we'd only be able to pay for one lifeguard.
If we had one lifeguard and we only spent $8,200, why are you telling me at 9,000 I
Oh, I'm
can't?
sorry, I looked at the wrong number. I was looking at the 9,000.
Oh. That's
So would
another
the
800.
second lifeguard just be 700?
There'd be $800 there for a second lifeguard.
Okay. Would that be enough, Sandy?
Well, we had the lifeguard 5 days a week, so
Right.
we were missing a lifeguard for 2 days a week. So I don't know how many,
Do you know how much one lifeguard costs?
well, it depends on what you set the hourly rate at, if it's like $14 an hour
Okay.
or 14, you know.
So do we think
So
of
we
it
had
as
16 hours times 14, and how many hours
Right. I just don't want to see us go too, you know,
So it's like 10 weeks, so 160 hours times 14.
so 160 hours times 14, what would that be?
Can I go ask them to?
Good.
You guys, can you either quiet down or move out? Because you're hearing right upstairs to me. Thank you.
If it's 160 hours at $14 an hour, it seems like it comes a bit up over $1,000.
Yeah, I mean, there's
So
always,
that the 800 wouldn't be quite enough.
well, yeah, there's always rain days, so whatever you think, you know.
Are they gonna be open 5 days or 5 weeks or?
We usually open, I think, 10 weeks the whole summer. I mean, this summer we only had a lifeguard
Yeah.
5 days a week, and just, it was just set that way. Depends on who applies. Depends on how many rainy days. I mean, we're gonna get some rainy days where it closes and we don't even need a lifeguard, so.
Do we want to say instead of 95, 91? Just to give a little wiggle room, or?
It's whatever you folks decide.
It'd be nice if they had somebody here.
Yes, it would be nice if they had someone here.
91?
This is gonna be crass, but if we just, they're responsible for their own budget, why don't we just give the 95 that they put in?
Looking at this whole budget.
I would hope that they put some thought into it before they submitted it.
Well, it's increased 53% over last year's budget. So, I guess the assumption is that they're going to be going into that CD. And if that's the assumption, then that they might have made it with that.
No, the CD's supposed to go away on June 30th.
What?
CD's supposed to go away.
Going away at the end of this year.
Oh, okay.
So it won't be around for this budget year.
Oh, okay. Well, then.
So are we, Nelson has said to go with the budget the way they've had it. What do people think?
Guess we could go that way and see
See how it shivers out.
see how it all shakes out at the end, but
Yes,
not the rec director, no, not with me anyway.
Okay, so is that what we said? What did we say? No. Did we
Why
say?
did they classify 2,500 under maintenance? Because that went up
I wish.
from 1,000 to 2,500. What's in maintenance that needs to be raised 1,500?
Well, I don't know. Did they include like they want to do roundup and other things around the basketball court? Is that part of that? I don't know.
I know that that bill, is that a separate order that they want to do now that the building up around the basketball court? Is that included? I don't think that's included in here.
That's on
That's,
that separate worksheet.
that's part of the spending down of the money now. Yeah.
Oh, that's what you.
Yeah.
On that Excel worksheet, this
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
sent on the
Okay, that's what, I was wondering where that equipment
Yeah.
was gonna come from.
Yeah. why it'd be nice to have somebody from the committee here to explain what these numbers are.
Yeah.
It would be nice if they had come because
Yeah.
I remember what you mean, you know, like recreation supplies, they went from
Fine.
1,000 up to 1,650.
First one, that's how I know.
Every 95 for that?
I guess
So
so.
were they at
Just
1,000?
line by line.
Yeah, let's do
Only to what we have the property, but this,
Correct.
is this.
6901.
Well, lake supplies, were budgeted for, 525. And we don't know, yeah, we don't have an estimated.
Okay, what about the rec salaries?
Until we
Let's go down.
Are we going to the rec salaries at
Go
95?
down line by
We're going down
line.
in order there, let's just.
Yes, let's go down in order.
Okay. Did they run the program this year?
Yeah.
Yes.
They ran it for 3 weeks.
Is that normal?
No, 4. Yeah, they usually do 4, they did 3 this year.
Okay, so if they did 3 at 6,500, then that would be about 9,000, so.
So what do we put down for Elfin Lake salaries? Do we put down 9,500 for Elfin Lake salaries? What number do we have there?
Fine. Yeah, that's, I think we agreed 9,500 for the first line,
Yeah.
Nelson.
95?
Yes.
That's what you said, we're just trying to clarify.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
And now for the summer recreation salaries? It was budgeted for 97, they spent 65?
Yeah, but they did it 3 weeks rather than their normal 4.
Okay. So what are we thinking about putting down for a number for the budget? They're asking for 10.
Yeah, that's 3,500 above what they're estimated for this year. Do we know if they're budgeting for a longer period of time than this year?
Yeah, they'll be budgeting for a longer period of time. They only did it for 3 weeks this year instead of 5.
Is it 5 weeks or 4?
Okay, I guess we can't argue with the 10 then.
Somebody should have been here.
Okay.
I second that.
To, you know, answer questions.
I know.
I'm not comfortable right now. Okay.
You know, I would recommend tabling it, but we haven't got a hell of a lot of time before this has got to be
Oh, I
done.
know.
Yeah,
Okay. So
But they were notified to come, I'm very sure that
yes.
Sandy did that.
What,
Sandy sent out
What?
the message today with the reminder, the friendly reminder.
what
Yeah.
if we go with the budget they've got right here?
Okay.
And if we get complaints or if somebody spots something when we're working around on our own, that we're not happy with what we're filling in here.
All
I mean, I've got a hell of a question on, you know,
What?
we've got all
Don't
this
get me
stuff
going on that
on the
one.
recreation.
Yes,
Don't get me going on that.
One thing I'd say though, on that 10,000, Nelson, if we only spent 6,500 for 3 weeks, 4 weeks would only bring it up at that same rate, would only bring it to 8,125, so.
Yeah, agreed.
so are we going to offer for 4 weeks or for 5?
We never did
we
5.
never
Oh,
done
we've
four.
always only done 4.
Right.
Let's say 85.
So you said 81, Bruce?
Yeah, 8,125 would be 4 weeks.
What if we said 82?
I'm good with 82. I
Yeah,
don't-
that's fine.
Well, that's a better number than 10,000. And not being smart, if they aren't happy with it, they can come argue it.
It's hard when there's no one here to talk about why the numbers are what they are.
So
I have to agree because I have questions. If we're going to go by what they want here, There's one item that I'm going to say no on, and that's the recreation director. I'm not in favor of that, to put into the budget.
So we're gonna
Was this voted on by the townspeople? I wasn't on the board at the time.
do maintenance for
It was voted on 2 years ago. We hired a person, they didn't work out,
They quit.
and
We really don't need a recreation.
I don't
director. I
think we need a
think
rec director.
they did pretty good last year, or, wait a minute, this year.
The only thing that I would say is that a recreation director could like be involved in helping set the budget, helping research what the cost of things should be. We could say that they would come to one meeting a month and report back. Right now, the communication we're getting from the committee is like not a whole lot. And
I probably shouldn't say this, but in my mind, I just assume get rid of the rec committee, because I'm not seeing anything out of them but a lot of complaints, and they want to spend a lot of taxpayers' money.
well, and I think the rec committee can also say they don't feel that some of their suggestions are, you know, that they put in time and work in.
I don't see where they put a ton of work in.
They
They
do,
go to meetings.
well, they do put time into researching certain things and doing certain stuff.
Kathy, there's 3 piles of wood chips that sat in the playground all summer, they never got spread
Did
out.
that ever get dealt with?
No.
And see, that's what I'm saying. If the work isn't being done by that, that's the only reason why I think having a rec director to help get these things done. If we can't find the volunteers to do the sort of things that need to happen for the town. And we certainly, I mean, I don't want to go around and around this all night long, but that would be my talk about why a recreation director might be, if we don't think about it this year, maybe thinking about it coming up.
I quite honestly think that right now, we're shooting into the dark on everything we're putting money into. I don't think that this is a year to put 10,000 in for a rec director. You know, trying to justify getting the wood chip spread at the kiddie park probably isn't the best reasoning for a director, particularly a $10,000 a year director.
Well, not
Right.
just for that, but just for having.
Right now,
recommended-
what I'd like to see out of the rec committee is, we've got this humongous list of stuff here. Probably if we stop and look at, what have they got, I think 1,500 on here for recreation supply, 1,650. If they get any one of these floating rafts, they're gonna double what they've got on that.
I think this is for
They
use for the
need to
CD
get
money.
their representative in here
Yeah.
and tell us, this is what we want for this is what we want for that,
And to
and come up
explain,
with a bottom
to
line.
explain what this list's for, I'm assuming that this list is for the CD money, but we don't have anybody here to tell us.
Well, that in addition, have you looked through this thing?
A little bit,
The
yeah.
weed over here, you know, that 30 gallon
Yeah.
is gonna take more than they've got budgeted for the whole rec supply. And who spreads it? You know, they haven't come to us with any of these ideas.
Before they ever put any kind of weed thing down there, they need to talk to the fire district. Because
Well fields.
your wells for your town water supply are in that field.
Yeah.
I mean,
A&R is gonna have to be brought in on it.
they told Mr. Davenport, who's got the cornfield
Yeah.
south of there, that he could not spread fertilizer on there because of the wells. So I don't think the fire district is gonna say it's okay to put a weed killer on the ball fields down there.
You know very well they're not.
But getting down to the points here.
Yeah.
Which raft do you want in there? How many of these canoe paddles do you need?
Right.
They need to get in here and tell us what you need for that one. But my suggestion still goes, for now, we fill them in.
Yeah,
And let them come in and argue the point what they don't like.
okay. So what do we think about telephone
What?
at 250?
I think right now we eliminate the rec director for now. I'll be honest, in the future, I could possibly see next year or whatever doing. We've just got too much, and you can't get off of my plate here that we need to do something about that grader. Either replace it, lease it, something. We can't have the winter like this with a 21-year-old grader wondering if Sugar Hill is going to be open or not. We've got too many people up there.
The only other thing I'd like to just say is the CD is, I mean, it's like 14,000, but that's not all for that list. I mean, we have $6,100 to resurface the tennis court. I mean,
That's right.
Yeah,
so
that's
that
right,
might come
too.
out of that CD too, so.
Yeah, that's my
So you
thought,
can get a
actually.
dock.
What I'd like to see is, I don't know where to budget or whatever, but they want all this stuff, or this is their want list. What I'd like to see is the building itself. We need to get new, what do you call them, gutters. The ceiling in the concession stand really needs to be fixed. And I think the bathrooms have to be kind of updated. If we're going to keep that lake open, we got to accommodate getting that building up.
Maybe that's why maintenance is up so higher.
It could be.
Well, it could be.
But there's no one here, I won't say it again, I've said it enough. I wish somebody was here to explain this.
Okay, so going with what they kind of asked for with the budget as it
Yes.
is, I've got a question, I just don't understand. Do you know what that means, Julie, that it says the $1,000 donated from the thrift store to be reallocated from our budget this year?
The thrift shop donated $1,000 in July, so they've spent some of it.
Okay, so they're saying carry it forward to next year, that's what the, oh.
You don't carry it over, it goes into the general.
They better spend it by June 30th.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So, are we on electric?
I think so.
Yeah, the electric and the telephone are fine.
Okay.
The portable restroom, everything else is pretty reasonable.
Wait a minute.
So, yeah,
Electric, they
We went
went,
2,500 for
they went up
maintenance.
100, they went to 450. Is that right?
Yeah,
That's
Portable
electric
restrooms,
450.
1,300.
yeah.
Okay, so that went up.
See, that's recreation supplies is where that 1,000 came in from.
And then how are we with maintenance? They're asking for 25?
Yep.
Well, I'll go along with it, but I think we need to find out what that 25 is
Yeah.
for. I would personally like to know.
Well, maybe they, I think they are talking
You know,
about
maybe 2,000.
doing this to the building.
I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah. Portable restroom?
That's for the ball field, isn't it?
Think so.
And they're asking for 13, which is what was budgeted before.
That's the ball field and
Where did my here go?
Just, well, there's nothing over at Stone now, is there? I don't think there's anything over there. But this is for two.
Well, according to the budget figures here,
But, you know, one got
for
destroyed.
the
I was gonna say, are we gonna
restrooms,
do two restrooms in the ball
395,
field
we
after they
budgeted
ruined one?
1,300.
So what are we thinking, 4 restrooms, for portable restrooms?
No, I'm thinking one.
So one,
Yeah,
so does that cost us the 1,300 for 2?
It could.
Or is it for 1?
I don't think we should have two. I think keep
We had
with the one.
1,300 for two,
Okay. So are we talking about 650 for 1?
I would say, yeah.
What's everybody think?
What was the figure? Because 750?
I think,
Yeah, say 750 just for,
we're gonna say 750?
650?
I think we're saying
It's really
750.
$650.
Just 750, just
And I think we're gonna
Okay,
go to
750.
750. Field trips looks like, they want to level fund it.
That was 15.
They spent 15, they were budgeted 2. They're asking for 2.
Okay, so 2,000.
I just seemed like it was crazy to spend the kind of money they did to go to White's Pool when we got a lake right here. That's my opinion.
I don't know what that trip was for or what they got out of it. We never found out.
So bring it down.
It's up to everybody. I mean, that's just my opinion.
I have to agree with you too. When I saw that Wake's Pool, that was quite a bit of money.
I mean, if they spent 15, let's leave it at 15. I don't know.
I'll go with 15.
15 it is.
Okay. Take it on next, come.
Food supplies, they're asking for the same amount. I don't think they,
No, they're
doesn't look like
asking
they
for-
spent anything.
They're at the lake supplies, yeah, that's the same.
Well, it was budgeted for 21-22 at 525, and they're asking for 525.
Right, that's the same. Recreation supplies are up 1,000.
Okay.
Yeah. They were doing, they kept on there, but it was up there.
Yeah,
So 525?
Yeah, so lake supplies, 5808, we're good with figure 525. Now I need to talk about 5809, the $1,000 increase in the recreation supplies.
What's
Now,
that?
lake supplies is Elephant Lake.
Yep.
Recreation supplies, we're talking about the program.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any idea what they've spent so far, Jamie, on that? It would be 5809.
Recreation supplies, they spent
So what's the number?
$950,
huh?
They went over this
And they were
year
only budgeted 650?
on this budget.
And they had a smaller program.
I read some coding stuff, I don't know, without looking.
According to Julie's figures here, recreation supplies is.
Would these recreation committee equipment fall under that recreation supply?
No. I
So,
don't know.
I don't know if that, is that summer program that we're talking about?
Julie? With that 5809 line, recreation supplies,
And that'd be the summer rec.
So that's summer raft.
Okay, so.
would that cover like the raft and all that stuff too?
No, not water lake supplies.
This is just the program supplies for the rec program.
The 3-week.
So they spent about $950 and they were budgeted for $650. What do we think? Do we want to go with like $950 for recreation supplies? Go with what they spent? Okay.
Well, if they've got 1,000 to spend, you know, if they got the rest of the thrift shop donation to spend for recreation by June 30th,
Yeah, because they're gonna need.
I would think
I
you'd
mean, you gotta
leave that at 650, but put lake supplies at 15, 20, so they can buy all this stuff? What about
Well,
like,
all this stuff, I mean, they gotta, some of that's gonna come out
about
of
the
the
CD?
CD,
Okay,
but
gotcha.
whatever's approved, I mean, you know, if we need.
So where does that leave us with recreation supplies?
Why did they go over budget? By that
It
much.
was 4,000.
Start the
I see.
in June, and they overspent, and they, you know, the program started in June.
Maybe they included that $1,000 for the donation that, That's what they want to say.
So where are we at?
I don't
I
really
like your 950, I don't know.
What?
Kathy suggested 950 on that line.
Last year we budgeted 650 and they spent 946, so they went over budget, so.
Well, they were asking for 1650, so
Yeah, that's a lot of
I was thinking,
increase.
give them what they spent this year. We won't give them the 1650, but we'll give them what they spent.
950,
Yeah.
950.
Well, some of that
That okay?
946
Agree with me.
is part of the donation.
You're like me now,
Oh, is that
we're getting.
So some of that.
I'm long.
I am too,
Is gonna be paid for.
without
with
them
that
being
donation.
here.
Yeah.
So some of the funds are being paid for with what?
The donation that they're anticipating, the $1,000, that's why they went over budget on that.
Some of it's
Because
gonna be
it's gonna be
paid for from
absorbed.
that. I just haven't done the accounting part of it. I don't do it till the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, again, I asked, where does that put us with that figure? Are we going to, what do you think, Julie? Do we give them what they asked for, or?
650 or 950? Choose.
Well, they've still got, say, $700 from the thrift shop to spend.
But they gotta spend that this year. We're
Yeah.
talking about next year.
But they could buy, you know.
They
whatever
could
it is.
pre-buy stuff
Yeah.
and everything, okay. So 650.
Okay.
650?
650,
Good.
am I
Okay,
right?
650.
And I'll just tell them they gotta spend it by.
Right.
You tell her.
Okay.
Plan ahead.
Late concessions.
Okay,
Late concessions? I think we're on 5810.
Oh,
They're asking
That's
for
level.
1,000?
They
Yeah.
level on
Yeah,
that.
level funding on
Yeah.
that.
Okay. It looks like it's level funded on the mowing too. The 2,600.
Yeah, that's kind of a quoted thing.
Now mowing, what do they do down there for mowing? Oh, the rec, never mind. It's all right.
It's okay.
It's, I know what the mowing is, I'm getting tired. Okay,
We haven't
Never
bid on
mind.
that yet, I don't believe.
Are we looking at, the youth sports? And what youth sports are we sponsoring?
Little League?
Never.
Little League? Oh, what we pay to be part of the Little League?
Well, I think we just, don't we just, give them a little bit of money towards,
Well, they're asking for the 500, that was level funded too. Oh no, that's different. They're actually asking for the 500.
yeah, the level
I'm good with
funding.
that.
Level funding.
Actually, they're asking for less.
Is that a donation to the baseball, the little league, or?
Yeah, that's a donation to the baseball.
You know what gets me is nowhere on here does it say anything about adults.
Yep.
You know, the whole rec program is totally devoid of any kind of programming. No yoga, no exercises, no anything. It's all geared, tons of money going, and that's just my throwing comment in here.
Yeah.
Have we heard anything from the Elfin Lake 5K, if they're planning on still having it?
Well, obviously they got it on here.
But
I know.
there's no money put towards it. I haven't heard anything. Has anybody heard anything about that 5K?
No, we haven't.
This wasn't initially a town-sponsored event.
No, it wasn't.
no,
It was never a town-sponsored event.
It was
so
for the
why-
conservation committee, wasn't it?
no, it
No,
was
it was
just a
just
private.
some-
Oh, it's just a private thing?
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, she had to run it through the town,
okay.
but, yeah, it was just, I can't remember the name right now.
Okay.
So we're still okay not funding it?
Yes. I'm okay.
What did we say?
Zero.
Zero.
Oh, that's the, zero?
Yep.
Well, I think if they have it, it's an in and out thing like we did before.
Yes, I don't think with COVID they're gonna have it again. I just don't know.
And Wallingford Day?
We're rec programs, right?
We missed
By
recreation.
817.
Oh, Miss Recreation Program.
Then we go to,
Well, they actually went down on
Went down.
So they've gone down what they're requesting for rec programs.
that. Okay.
What are they? What are they doing? What's the difference between a rec program and recreation supplies and summer recreation salaries and, you know, yada, yada, yada?
We have no one to
And
ask.
youth sports?
We don't have anyone to ask.
Wallingford Day, that's,
You don't.
we don't budget.
I think the rec programs probably were the line dancing, things like that.
But those weren't sponsored by the rec program, were they?
I don't know. Maybe that's what they were thinking.
Probably that 265 that we spent last year was, they did Halloween stuff.
Oh,
She had a
yeah.
coloring contest.
That's right.
Yeah.
Trish said that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all that is.
So that's good.
Well, then I'm fine with the five. Now
We
we're.
don't budget Wallingford Days, do we? Because that's,
No.
that's something.
It wound up being in here because it was, they had that left over. Remember, that's why we had it, because they had made the money a couple years ago and it was left over.
In the basketball court, that's.
So we just put zero there, Julie, on Wallingford Day?
No, we'll have to put whatever we put in for income.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
She'll take care of that.
Okay.
So we'll just leave that for now, question mark. And zero, I'll just leave basketball for it.
So are you gonna ask for clarification?
Is that 5819 for the tennis court rehab? And put 61 in there?
Well, are you gonna use the CD for that? I mean, is that something we're gonna budget for the tennis court, or are we?
Budget that in, don't we?
I would think we'd put it in here somewhere.
Yes.
Tennis court rehab?
Yeah, 5819,
Yeah, 58, 19. And then what's the amount for the rehab?
61.
61? So we'll put in 61 for that?
Why don't we use the,
I thought we were using the CD.
in this year, not put it in next year's
So
budget?
maybe we don't have to put it in because it's already going to be paid for, right?
Has anything come out of that CD yet, Julie, or?
Is that,
Has anything come out of that CD yet?
Then why don't we do that? Why don't we do the 61 for the tennis court rehab on the CD?
Out of this year.
Yeah. That way we don't have to put an item in the budget then.
Okay.
Appropriations.
Gee, what happened to Wallingford Rescue? They're always here.
No, they're, Wallingford Rescue, those three on the bottom, they're gonna do the next meeting, they'll be there.
Oh,
Gilbert
okay.
Hart, Wallingford Rescue, Mount Holly are gonna be on the 20th.
Okay.
The ones that are up here are all, except for, you know, the flags, they're all not Wallingford organizations, basically. I just wanted to be able to give them a bigger heads up than the end of December if we're not gonna.
What was that?
I said I just wanted to give these organizations more of a lead time if we're not gonna fund them rather than the end of December. So
So we didn't fund these organizations last year, right?
Well, you can see,
If
you have
they
your
got a
chart.
zero, we didn't.
You have your chart.
Oh, let me see on my chart. It's not this one, is it?
It says charitable requests.
It's the next page of what we were working on. It's the second page of where we just were,
Oh, the second page of this?
of the budget.
Yep. I can run down the copies. You guys don't have, you can, it's the same thing on the budget too. though.
Okay. It looks like this.
Budget.
Okay.
Let me run down and make copies of this.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Hey, our next meeting's on my anniversary.
Oh, how
I'm
many
not
years?
coming.
How many years?
49.
Cassie, you weren't here last year, we went through appropriation. I don't know what kind of discussion we'll have this year. Last year, we probably spent more time on this one than anything. I actually wound up having to contact a couple of these people. They called in, wanted to know why it was cut.
Okay.
And of course, last year was because of the COVID.
Okay.
So this year is probably going to be a total different. I don't know how many have applied yet. Usually we have them apply.
Okay, so
And
they
they
apply.
will
And that's
ask
the
for-
list that Sandy's getting for us,
Yeah.
okay.
I know on 5221, I agree with that. Wallingford flag expenses.
Yeah, what about
I will automatically approve that. Which, 52, no, on this one, thank you.
Oh,
5221, Wallingford flag.
yeah, the flag expenses.
I agree on that. I'll put it. A lot of them. He does a good job.
Are these, the budgeted amounts from those years, not the requests, right? Sandy?
So FY '22 is what we gave them,
Okay.
and then
Okay.
FY '23 is
How
what
much
they
they asked
requested.
for.
And we can see like a couple years back what we've given them.
Yeah. Okay.
So should we start at the top or?
Nelson, where are we going?
They're not in the same order, that's for sure.
No, because we skipped them around. We're not doing Stafford, Ralph Stafford right now. They're pretty
I
close, so.
think possibly if we go by the charitable request, fiscal year 23, she's got what they, in 21, is that what they requested or is that what we granted?
What we gave them.
What we gave them?
This is what we gave them. Yeah, it's not what, it's what we gave them, this is what they're requesting this year.
Well, apparently they think we got rich overnight.
So,
I hope they're aware that we cannot use ARPA funds today.
Oh, yeah.
so do we want to talk about the scholarship first?
No.
That's gonna be
That's gonna
determined
be
by
whatever it's gonna be, okay.
It's whatever it is.
So then VNA, hospice?
Yep.
We gave them $250 back in 21. Do we want to do that again?
This is the chair. Oh, there it is.
they're requesting a hefty amount.
Yeah.
The last time we gave them money, we gave them quite a bit less. Do we want to go with that smaller number?
I mean, just so it gets brought up again, as I started to explain to Kathy, last year, a lot of these requests were really hotly contested.
Yep.
Not just because of COVID. There were members that expressed that they didn't think that it was the purview of the town of 2,000 people to be contributing to charities that could be getting charities from each individual in that town freely given, but should taxpayer dollars of the whole town be given as charitable donations that people would not normally give on their own. In other words, did we have the purview to donate for them irregardless of their wishes? And that was a strongly argued point. I realize that probably some of the members here now aren't even, that doesn't even cross their mind, but it was in the minds of, it was expressed at the meetings, and they were open meetings at the time. Please understand, that's not necessarily my view. It's just, it was an expressed view. Okay, the Rutland Area Visiting Nurse Association, 21 was 250, 22, they received nothing this year. They're requesting 2,860. That would be, what, 1,000% roughly?
Something like that. More.
Basically, the view, do we go back to the 250, or is it a different amount that we're looking at? Or is it going to be a zero? I'm completely open to.
Sorry. Wasn't part of the discussion with them last year was that they charge people for their services? And we felt, why should we be giving them a donation?
No, they don't charge.
They don't
B&A
charge?
doesn't charge.
I don't know, I think they do charge.
No.
You know, when I was, I had them call, I think 3 times when I had my heart surgery. And I didn't receive a bill, but I don't know if they billed the insurance.
Well, if insurance is around, I'm sure they would be stupid not to hit it up, but.
I know when I got B&A services, there was no charge for them.
So they just build your insurance.
And they do hospice care too.
I'm sorry?
They do the hospice care as well.
Yeah,
I'm good with 250 for them.
250.
Yeah.
Southwood Council on Aging, we gave 500.
No, we gave them 0 last year.
Zero.
I heard about that personally from somebody that knew I lived in Wallingford, and they actually had went to the,
0, yeah.
yeah, they went to the state and asked if it was legal for us to do that and not have it go to the voters individually. Just.
Well, it looks like the last amount was 250.
No, last year was zero.
It was
No,
0.
I mean back in 2021,
Oh.
sorry. I should have clarified.
Yeah, I don't know where the 500 is coming from.
They're asking for 500.
Yep.
Are we okay with what amount? 250, 500?
I would say 250 sounds like a good number.
Okay.
for some of these.
You know, the one thing I would bring up is that we're looking at maybe asking for a grader. We're looking at asking for a salt shed. I think we need to be cutting back and eliminating costs wherever we
But
can.
doesn't this go to the voters anyways? So they ultimately have a decision?
Well, it's in the budget, it doesn't, it's
Okay.
not separate line items.
This stuff is hidden in the budget, so people really don't.
Okay.
Now, on the Southwestern Council on Aging, don't they do the Meals on Wheels? And I know that quite a few people in Wallingford had that.
So 250?
I can't say how many, but I know.
How about 250?
Yeah,
That sounds good.
250.
Go ahead, boy.
Is that agreeable?
That's
Yeah.
agreeable to me.
Gilbert Hart Library.
That's next meeting.
Rutland
Oh,
County
okay.
Rutland County Humane Society.
5206.
Isn't that where we take our strays and everything?
Yes, it is.
I think we should.
Yeah.
300?
Yep.
I say 300 on that one.
And then where is,
Rutland Mental Health. They were zeroed out last year. In 21, they were 250. And they're looking at 1427 for request.
I understand why they're asking for this. There's a mental health crisis right now. Mental health workers are seriously underpaid, so they're quitting. And I think Rutland Mental Health is asking for this because their backs are up against the wall. Now, we've asked for, we gave them back in 2021, we gave them 250. Last year, we didn't give them anything. What number would we like to go for this year? We could do 250, we could do,
In 21, we went 250.
yep,
If we go 500, we're doubling.
what do we think?
I think as Bruce pointed out, with the amount of stuff that we're coming up with that we really need,
Yeah.
um,
So do we want to
Is-
say 250 on that?
as much as I appreciate Rutland Mental Health, and right up until January when I retired, we were seeing innumerable cases where Rutland Mental Health was being called on.
Yeah.
But I honestly think that if we more than double anybody here,
Yeah,
we're doing an injustice to the ones that we're cutting.
that's true. So
250.
do you want to do 250 for Rutland Mental Health then?
I would say 500.
500, I would agree with 500.
Are we?
Brock,
That's double from what you just argued, Nelson.
You just argued.
Well, he said to go more than double. He doesn't want to give them that 1427. He's saying 500.
Why would we want to double them more than anybody else?
Just because of the work that they're doing.
So does the Southwestern Council and hospice. I mean, just my opinion.
No, it's fine. What's the table consensus? I know I'm okay with the 500 figure, but whatever anybody else is good with, definitely can be said.
well, you're the anybody that wants to go to a different direction, but I will point out, Cindy Taylor Patch is one counselor. She's a full-time instructor at the police academy. And I know that when the Rutland Mental Health has been short, they've had to call her, and that gets expensive. Right now, getting help with them, I don't look at their books, but I'm sure that they're seeing a heck of an increase in their per person expense. I think as most of these operations are. If you're going to cut it back to 250, I'm fine with that as long as we're not cutting them out completely
Yeah.
because they do us a service. Your feelings?
I think that's
fair. 250?
Yep.
250?
Yep.
Okay.
Brock, they were cut last year,
They haven't.
and apparently they haven't requested yet.
Oh, they haven't requested, okay.
Haven't heard from them yet. Maybe we'll by the next one.
They, like the others, were notified already.
Oh, yeah, everybody was notified.
I would say 0 there then.
Okay.
RSV and the volunteer center. They were 250 and 21. We cut last year, they're asking 300.
Do you want to say 250?
250? Regional ambulance.
Haven't heard from them.
This is a hard one.
What if they?
I'm surprised they haven't made a request.
Oh, they didn't make a request?
Nope.
I guess if we're gonna have a policy that they didn't request, we don't donate. I do feel bad that they did not request. They do a great deal of service outside of their area, and basically they are the backup for Wallingford Rescue. When Wallingford Rescue does not have a crew available. They also do not bill individuals, however they do bill insurance. I think if we're going to stick to the policy, we're going to have to say 0 unless they come to us before, I'd say the end of the year when this goes in.
Yeah.
New story, formerly the Rutland County Women's Network and Shelter. For you, those of you who aren't aware, Bonnie Gaynor used to be the director at one time.
Yeah.
We've also had at least one counselor who lived in town here that gave them a number of years of services. They were one that was cut last year. They provide a rescue spot in Rutland where they will take victims of domestic abuse and their children. Obviously, for obvious reasons, they don't publicize locations or anything that has to do with their facilities. And I'm certainly not going to go into detail beyond that. But I do think the 250 is worthwhile. Vermont Center for Independent Living. Apparently they're a fairly new request.
Oh.
I'm not familiar with them at all.
Where is it? The Center for Living, so they help developmentally disabled adults manage their money, have a place to live, have the care networks that they need to in order to function. They do very good service.
Is it an in-home service or is it a facility that they have?
It's an in-home service. In-home, and they help them with things like taking care of their expenses, just managing their day-to-day lives.
General field, yes or no?
Vermont Adult Learning,
We're at the Vermont Center for Independent Living, the one right above it.
Yeah, the independent living right above. They're asking 280.
What do we think? Do we want to say 250?
They're a new one. Why don't we, when we know a little more about them, we do 100 or 100 so.
Sure. So
Are
100.
you agreeable with that?
100, yeah.
100?
100.
We don't even have a line item.
which number are they?
We don't
They're a new one.
They weren't in there last year. They're on your other sheet though.
Yeah.
Vermont Adult Learning.
Same thing.
Apparently it's zero. It was probably a new one also.
Yeah.
Okay, and they haven't asked for it.
Again, I'm not really sure. They haven't asked, so that's
Yeah.
So we'll just leave them up.
Vermont Association for Blind and Visually Impaired. That's an unusual one, they've actually gone down $10.
They've gone down, they've asked for 90.
If there are no objections, 90. Rutland Natural Resources Conservation.
Green up.
Green up 100.
Okay.
I don't remember what they do.
What?
I went by Green Up Vermont also.
Yeah, so green up will do 100.
Yeah, 100.
They asked for
100 okay there?
They requested 150.
I don't know if the bags are more expensive this year as well.
You want 100 or 150?
100.
Okay.
The National Resources Conservation District.
They did rain garden for us, and they're also the ones that are running that stormwater grant with involving Wallingford Elementary School.
Right.
Nancy McGuire.
250?
Yeah, you told us about that last year.
Yep.
It's nice to see one we're getting a nice return on.
Yeah.
Rutland County Parent Teacher, or Parent Child Center.
They didn't ask
No
for
request.
Nothing.
They're not asking for anything.
Haven't heard from them yet.
Wallingford Flag Expenses, 150. Irving Smith Scholarship, 1,000, that's an annual.
Yep.
Neighborhood Work, 0.
Haven't heard from them.
ARC Rutland area went from 121 to 500 requests.
Where's that? Which one are we at?
I'm trying to think what that acronym is. I've seen them in my email.
ARC? Is that what you're
That's
talking
the,
about? What do they do?
advocacy resources.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Are they a new, we give them 100 before?
Yeah, they're not now. They've been around a little bit.
Okay. So do we want to do 100 for them?
I would say yes, that sounds good.
Nobody seems to know what they do. Why give them money?
Well, Sandy was saying they do advocacy work.
They've been around for years,
Yeah.
and that's just every year.
Yeah.
And we've given to them in the past. So I would say do the same amount, do the 100.
Was there requested we get any kind of literature of why or?
Yeah, they all send letters. This is the.
Again, if we're gonna stick with what we've done, we wouldn't go over 200 to begin
But I
with.
don't know where the correct term is now.
I'm open to suggestion.
Of what?
Are you talking about with ARC, the
The
ARC?
ARC,
About
ARC.
100.
I would say the 100.
100.
Okay, good.
Preservation Trust of Vermont. There's another one. I am not familiar with them.
Yeah, they do. They did our
They did the
elevator.
community visit, that whole,
Yeah.
Well, they did our elevator too.
yeah, they did the elevator.
Okay, so we want to stand good terms with them.
Yep.
What do you mean they did the elevator? We
They
paid the
gave
elevator.
us, they even gave us a huge grant for that.
Oh, okay.
Grants, yeah.
Well, I would say, well, let's give them the 100.
So is that a yes on 100?
Yes.
I can't believe the Red Cross didn't ask for
I
anything.
know.
American Red Cross.
They made the.
They haven't asked for anything.
I know, but some years I just chase these guys. And American Red Cross is one, and Regional Ambulance is one. They never did their stuff out.
American Red Cross was 100 back in 21. We zeroed it out last year.
They haven't asked for anything.
Yeah.
Was that a yes I heard, or?
They didn't ask
They
for
haven't
anything.
asked.
That's right, I'm sorry. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Rural Fire Protection Task Force,
We gave them 100 before.
Yeah, why don't we just level fund those next four?
they were 121 and we zeroed it out last year.
I like that suggestion.
What?
Level fund the next 4. 100, 100, 100, 100, makes it easy. We're done.
If nobody argues, I'll go with that, they're all done. 100. And just for a watching audience, that's the Rural Fire Protection Task Force,
Yep.
the Vermont Family Network, the Child First Advocacy Center, and the Vermont Council on Rural Development.
Yes.
Okay, and obviously Gilbert Hart, Wallingford Rescue, Mount Holly, and I don't know about the communications group. They haven't responded yet either.
Well, that's the group for the
Yeah.
newsletter.
Yeah, that's the newsletter group.
They kind of come in with what they're kind of pulling,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I saw that Tim is getting the owl.
Yeah.
And
Timothy, yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting when you read it. It sounds very simple. And it reads, boop, boop.
Okay, the mail election ballots to all registered voters. We have at least 3 elections coming up.
So this is just for town meeting,
Yeah, this is just the town meeting.
due to change in the
That's-
election law. You have the right to vote if you want me to mail a ballot to every voter for March. And we have to cover all the costs.
When you're doing the primary ballots, do you mail all 3 to an individual, or do they have to declare which ballot they want?
The primary is the 3, but that's covered by the state.
Yeah, this is just for March.
I'm just talking town meeting.
Tell me.
Do you want to mail out a ballot to everyone?
No.
No.
No. Sorry. No.
I think that they need to request
Yeah.
a ballot.
I agree.
It's not, yeah, it's not that hard. It's not.
How about the other members here? Does everybody like that they requested? Yeah. So we're good on that?
Yeah, we're done. We're good. with that.
Okay, Recreation Committee vacancy. We've had no other applicants other than Shannon. Also, the rec committee has recommended Shannon Picklet to be their representative or on their board. We'll need a motion, a second.
I make a motion that we appoint Shannon Picklet to the Recreation Committee as they've requested.
Do we have a second? Well, I'll second it. I don't think we have a choice, but. Just had a motion, a second. All those in favor of appointing Shannon Picklet, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
I opposed.
Opposed? Ask them to get another candidate. Informational meeting in March. This is the night before election.
Great.
We have some literature in here on this owl thing. Apparently it's designed so that people can basically see the meeting going on at home. The other option is to have it Zoomed, and I would assume in person would be with a Zoom. If we have it upstairs here, it is going to be limited seating. I think probably we can get, what did we discuss, Sandy? Probably 48 to 60 persons to fit in,
I think so.
somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
So seating would be limited.
Would the school not allow us to meet there? Would the school not allow us to meet there?
They haven't been asked yet, but we're basing it basically on upstairs. If we can do it at the school, it'd just be better than up here. You know, we could probably do more than 48.
But we're planning that if we don't get the school.
Yeah, this would keep us to the minimum of
Okay.
what we could work with.
I'll put the request, depending on what you decide, I can put the request in, but I mean, we couldn't even run the rec program now with like 12 kids.
Right.
I think that whole like,
I know that Mill River's putting on a live concert on
so maybe they will.
Wednesday night, so, because I'm going. And they haven't canceled it, so
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know if anybody has opinions on this owl.
It's pretty neat.
Somewhere in the specifications I read that you can't get more than 8 feet away from the broadcasting part. So it's limited, from my understanding, the distance that it'll take it. So I don't see the practicality of it for a large meeting.
Yeah.
And in fact, the literature tends to, their diagrams and everything are for really formal, small, more corporate type meetings
Gotcha.
where there's a smaller board. I think probably we're looking at the choice of, if we can get permission from the school system to use their area, doing the meeting over there. At this point, I hope that we can have an in-person meeting like we've always had. I think we do need to keep in the back of our mind the possibility of signing up for Zoom late and doing that as a backstop or as a potential if required. I don't think any of us know that in March we're going to be with masks or anything. But I think for now that's what we probably better be looking at. You know, the meeting over there if we can. If not, then up here with Zoom.
Okay.
ARPA funds. I mentioned in the opening, Eric has supplied Sandy and myself actually too, with a number of references on these ARPA funds. Most of the recommendations he's made a brief statement and then given a reference to look up and then decipher and make an evaluation of what that says. And if you can probably picture it, this is all in legalese. And quite honestly, I don't think either Sandy or I understand about half of what comes out of it. I don't think that this board as a group has the input to really adequately come up with what we can fund and what we can't fund. I would like to see if the board here tonight will perhaps post a request for a committee. Peg Sewell has already volunteered to be on a committee of that type. Just general information, Peg has got a lot of background in committee work. She's been on the school boards. I'm sure that her husband Bob is going to be right over her shoulder with his words and comments. But I think we need another maybe half dozen people that can devote some time to going through some of these sections and as a group getting back to us with what they'd like to see presented that can be purchased legitimately through the funding, and that both needed and wanted in town. As a board, we see a lot of problems in town, and we've got probably dozens of things that we could put funds to use, but again, they're just not covered under ARPA.
No, I think forming a committee is a good idea.
I honestly don't think any one or two of us can dig through these registered requirements and adequately search what can be done. I can think of probably a dozen people in town, our emergency management director, perhaps a fire chief, business people. Michelle Kenny down here has the problem is I hope they would volunteer. But my suggestion would be that we look at a 7-person committee beyond just Peg to dig into this and try to get back to us on what we can do. There's no way around coming to the realization that we as a board are going to have to be making up a final decision of where the money goes. But I would really like input from a committee that has looked at just that and isn't busy looking at the bridge and isn't busy looking at the salt shed and isn't busy looking at the fire protection, that doesn't have to deal with the water in South Wallingford that we're dealing with. I think this ARPA needs that kind of attention. So even without a vote, I'm going to ask anybody that's out there listening to this, please consider if your input would be of good value to this type of a thing. That we're going to really need to distribute these funds where they need to go. And we will be facing federal audits.
Do we need to make a motion if we're going to put together a committee? How does that work?
I think we do need a vote to make a committee.
Okay.
Yeah. Would anybody care to make a motion?
I'd like to say something first. If you make a committee, I think it should be a small committee of not more than 5 people. My experience with committees is the bigger they get, the less efficient they are.
5 member?
I'm not really sure I'm even in favor of a committee, but
What would your suggestion be?
my suggestion would be that we look at 3 or 4
3 or 4?
big projects that the town needs, and then work toward that. If we make a committee, maybe provide that direction.
Okay, that's great.
Pat?
Yeah, I agree. I think a committee of 5 and
5?
give them, let them do some of the research and some of the idea that we're looking at some big projects.
Yes.
Big difference makers.
With the goal to look for 3 or 4 large projects that could be done with the money.
Would you like to make a motion to that then? I'll rescind mine.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we create a 5-person committee to investigate how to spend our ARPA funds.
I'll second that motion.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. Select board comments or concern?
Committee, we have committee meeting sites.
Yes.
It's on the memo. Deb Scranton was wondering if they could start meeting downstairs. The conservation, if they could meet downstairs with the accordion doors open and all visitors wearing masks.
Why don't they want to meet up here?
I think she just for audio and for conference calls. I think the audio is just better downstairs. So they rarely get any visitors.
What do they want to do? Use your office?
In the whole
With the
thing.
doors open?
Yeah.
How many are there?
Conservation has 7.
7.
Well, I mean, they have up to 9 if it's full. But they don't have that many right now.
Well, I would say if it's okay with you.
That almost begs the question, if we have them downstairs, why aren't we down there?
That's what I was thinking.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's 7 right now. Because we tend to have a lot more visitors. Yeah,
How do you feel about that?
I'm not at the meeting, so it doesn't bother me.
I guess if you're okay with it, I'm okay with it, but.
Okay.
And why did she ask the part about, ask whether the board would consider Zoom technology for folks unable to attend?
They just wonder if, they have a person coming to the next meeting that's out of state, Kate Warner, she's doing some,
Okay.
and she was just wondering if they were gonna do Zoom meetings. And, and I told her, you know, that Zoom was definitely gonna be coming up for town meeting anyways, that discussion.
Okay.
So, and I told her the owl was on the agenda, so she just said, let her know. They do from time to time get folks that want to provide input but don't want to.
You know, as much as I'd like to accommodate them, if they 7 of them, you know, 6 feet apart, you're talking 42 feet. And that's the widest apart. I don't see how they can maintain, you know, 6 foot down there. Not if they're gonna segregate them to one side and maintain visitors with masks on the other side.
I think she feels like they're all vaccinated and they feel comfortable meeting that close with masks on.
I mean, we get 5 years.
Okay,
How's everybody feel? Yes, no?
If Sandy's good with it, I'm okay with it.
So much.
That's the way I felt too. If Sandy's okay with it, I'm okay with it.
I mean, I don't attend the meetings, so I don't go to conservation meetings. It's simple enough to open the door for them, the accordion door for them.
I don't know how I feel.
Should we ask?
I mean,
her?
we're 5, and look at the space we
Yeah,
take
I mean,
up.
it's,
I don't see how you're gonna get
If
7 down
they're
there.
right below us, there's not much. You've got those 2 big desks on the end. You've got Sandy up on this end
Yeah. We
with,
don't have much.
with her filing cabinets. And they, even if they whipped around, they still have to maintain the people on that side
Yes,
of the room.
like we do.
That room isn't big enough to accommodate the,
And not if there's 7 of them, even with 5. Look
Really, we're
Look at-
up here, not down there.
That's true.
We'd like to be down here, but we can't.
I think you better tell them no for now.
Okay.
Oh, what the heck did I know?
Selectboard.
We're on other business now.
Energy
Select
committee
board
or
comments, concerns.
Okay, under other, select board, other business, we've given $25 rather than turkey the last number of years. I would assume we do the same thing.
I think the guys appreciate it a lot better.
Yeah. I know, being single, I wouldn't, I wouldn't try cooking a turkey, so, yeah, that's good, 25. They were asking for a letter of support for H115.
Yep.
That's gonna throw the responsibility for hazardous waste onto the manufacturers, from what I understand of the information. I don't think that's in the select board purview to be recommending it to the state. I think they're well, there's 160 representatives up there. I think they can hash that over themselves. Do we want to send a letter recommending the bill or not?
I wasn't comfortable with the idea myself.
I think that's one of those that they're just gonna have to make up their minds up there.
Let them make up
After all, they're getting the big bucks. Okay, we're good with the grant. Okay, and Hubbard's charge is $250 for the restroom that got vandalized at the ball field. I don't know, most companies I know of, if their equipment gets damaged, they take care of it. So I'm not really sure why we're getting billed for their equipment. We didn't vandalize it.
Well, we were renting it, right?
No.
It was on our premises, it's our responsibility, I would think.
It is our responsibility, or is it?
Well, isn't it?
Yeah.
We rented it.
Yeah.
So did we file an insurance claim along with the,
It's $1,000 deductible.
including
Oh,
the
I
fence
got it.
that's not a part of one of
We're
yours?
separate.
I
Oh my God, we're separate.
I gotta point out that when Halloween comes around and the store's windows down here get waxed, we don't clean them. So why the heck are we paying for their facility?
Oh,
Rob Barker did, has he taken the tree down yet?
I don't think not yet, but he said he'd get over there very soon.
He did go up and look at it, it is a
Yeah.
problem,
He
it's
said-
gotta
he said it
come
was
down.
hazard.
I don't know if it's come down yet or not, but it needs to, and it'll be not more than $400.
Great price.
Here's the other thing too, we received the insurance claim for the vandalized fence down there, that was our fence. And the boulders that they put in cost $205. My thought would be go ahead and pay the $205 out of the insurance.
Right, but what do you want to do with the balance? Julie asked me to put this on here. She said, what do you want to do with the balance of that? 1950, so like 1745.
Probably put it right into the general fund.
Okay.
Is that agreeable? Yeah.
take the 250.
The energy plan that they've included here, that still has to go through the Erica's, and
Yeah.
that's what she's dealing with.
Yep.
She has let Sandy know that to include that in with the plan that they have. That has all got to go to a hearing yet, and to the select board also. And neither of those can be completed before the general election. That was why I mentioned to Julie here earlier, if we had enough for all the elections. Hopefully it'll be ready in time to put on the general, come November, or
Primary.
whatever that one is, yeah. That pretty much covers the Erica's note there too. There's another comment here about the stormwater master plan. And that also all the properties were redeemed at the tax sale. I believe Narragansett has come to a agreement too, where they're gonna make up the back taxes. I think they're 2 or 3 years outstanding, and they've come into an agreement that this won't take place until next tax year. So, I think we're through it. Next meeting, December 20th.
What if I don't come?
Motion and second, please.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.